we're back. This is Business Rockstars. Let's go now to Mark Lack.
And we're here to inspire, inform, and connect a community of entrepreneurs. Joining us right now is David Sley. He's the CEO of Hestia Tobacco. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I saw you going for the handshake. I'm going for it.
There we go.
So Hestia Tobacco, you're obviously in the tobacco industry,
I
but
am.
what's specific? What do you guys do? What do you provide?
So Hestia Tobacco is the first all-natural, totally pure tobacco company in a generation.
Pure tobacco, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, explain that, because I think a lot of people out there don't know the difference.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a lot of, when you walk into Walgreens to buy a pack of cigarettes, you'll see about 30, 40 brands behind the counter.
At least, right?
At least. And what most folks don't know is that all of those brands are owned by one of two companies, RJ Reynolds and Philip Morris, or Altria as they've renamed themselves. And they use it's a very commodified product using a very low-grade mixed tobacco that is...
Chopped with rat poison.
I can't say, you can say whatever you want about it, but...
Okay. What I've heard at least.
Yes, yeah. There's a world of difference between their products and ours.
And pure tobacco.
And ours. So we're not yet USDA organic certified. That's a process that takes some time, but we are growing to organic standards and using the very best that we can find.
So this is an industry that I feel like is not something that you just kind of have an idea because you saw something on Shark Tank and you're like, I am going to have an idea and raise some money. You're competing against two giant gorilla companies. And I feel like there's not a lot of people that try to get into the space unless they're very, very, very niched. So why did you choose to get into the space?
I chose to get into tobacco because I met a lot of really interesting farmers that meant a lot to me. I was trading soybeans for ADM down in Valdosta, Georgia, and was buying the cash crop and arbitraging it at the Board of Trade in Chicago, and met all these farmers who were actually, they were tobacco farmers by trade, but they were having to grow soybeans and sell them to pay the bills for their families because they'd lost out on big tobacco contracts and whatnot. And I dared them to grow me some of the best tobacco and see where that ended up. And I didn't really think
you
they
dared
took me
them to grow you.
I didn't think they took me seriously, but
Yeah.
they did, and that was the nexus of Hestia Tobacco.
Wow, that's a pretty unique story. My question is, do you use your own product?
I do.
Okay, just making sure, right? Some people
Yeah.
don't even use their own product.
Really?
Some people don't.
That's fascinating.
Right? I mean, I'm trying to think of examples. Maybe like, this is a ridiculous example that just came to mind. Maybe like a guy that makes diapers. Like,
Okay,
that would be an
well,
example. That's a
that was-
ridiculous example, but that was like, for some reason, the first one.
I'll give that guy a pass.
That guy gets the pass. What do you feel like has been the hardest part about getting started?
Easily the hardest part of getting started was getting through the FDA.
Okay.
So I started the company right at the time that the government took control, the FDA took control of tobacco. So they don't regulate alcohol. That's ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and that's what used to be the regulatory board. And in 2009, the tobacco industry was handed over to the FDA for regulation, and so they are trying to subject it. It's a process that they're still trying to figure out, but they're pretty much trying to regulate it in the same way that they regulate new drugs coming to market.
So is this a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a very good thing for the two companies that control the market, and it's a very bad thing for anyone trying to break into the space.
Okay.
Because it's, as I was saying, the level of regulatory framework and structure that's necessary to bring a product to market is the same as bringing a new medical drug. And now there are clear differences in a tobacco product and a new drug as far as the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah. So they're using the same rubric, and so it's very difficult and challenging as the government also tries to figure out how to best work that, but it's very onerous.
So that's the toughest part about getting started. What about from like a personal perspective? That's more like the business stuff. What about the personal stuff? Because I feel like a lot of times that's what holds people back too, is it's their mindset, it's their limiting belief, it's they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, the education, the people.
I guess I kind of fell into it. I didn't always know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I always enjoyed creating things. And so, I'd been to law school and didn't want to be a lawyer. I was working for a fund, and it all kind of came together as I was working with these farmers and seeing their vision and really wanting to be a voice for that and get it out there. And it's sure. I mean, I own a tobacco company and I'm proud of it. And I think we do a lot of good things. My mother, I was homeschooled growing up, and she on Saturday mornings would bake a lot of bread and put it in the back of a wagon for me to go wheel around the neighborhood and sell the bread to my neighbors, because she always wanted me to have like an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
So I guess
was
in
all-
some
I was
ways
being-
that from a young
laying
age,
the
that
breadcrumbs.
laying the breadcrumbs. That's a good one.
Has there been a time yet, as inevitably there is for most entrepreneurs on their journey, where you felt like giving up?
Oh,
Where
absolutely.
you felt like it's time to go and get a job again, which would be the worst thing ever.
So I was working at ADM, Archer Daniels Midland, and the section that I was working on was sort of regulated out of existence. So I had originally hoped to sort of build Hestia into something, well, part-time, like most entrepreneurs. And then as it gained footing and traction and reception, then I could perhaps jump and leave to it full-time. But my section of ADM was closed, and so I was forced out. And I ended up actually living with my parents for a couple years. So that's a very humbling thing when you're first starting out and
Doing what you got to do as an entrepreneur.
yeah, and you go from working in the finance sector to living with your parents in one fell swoop, and it sobers you up real quick.
Has there been a mentor that has impacted your life? Could be parents, could be Tony Robbins, could be somebody, right?
My maternal grandfather was he started an oil company, and was one of the first to figure out how to do slant drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, and he always inspired me and taught me a lot about how to run a business and how to be an employee, really, so much as even being a boss. And I think you have to be a really good employee if you want to be a boss. So.
Why do you believe that?
Because you have to know the chain of command. You have to know where your role is, and you have to feel. I know that Mark Cuban said a lot about this, but you have to always, in any decision that you make, you have to think of how it's going to affect everyone down the line.
I love that. We've got the CEO of Hestia Tobacco, David Sley, joining us. This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack, and we're here to inspire, inform, and connect the community of entrepreneurs. We've got some of your products on the table here. I especially like this one. I've never seen anyone like this.
It's unique.
Basically just a cigarette.
Yeah, it's cigarette tobacco, and it's just wrapped in a tobacco-based paper to make it a filtered little cigar.
I love it.
And so it's going to burn a little slower. It'll go out if you don't keep smoking it.
So my question is, moving forward, we've got 3 of your little products here. Moving forward, what's the future look like? Is it innovation? Is it coming up with new things? Is it going into the e-cig market? Is it sticking to your guns and staying with this and just trying to get this product out there into more hands? What is it?
All of the above,
All
and
the
then
above?
some.
Okay.
But really, so I've been working on getting the cigarette distribution out there in the rest of the world, because I think that will help the global effect of, we're building an influencer market in the United States, and obviously the United States is somewhere that the rest of the world looks for influencer marketing. And so being able to parlay that goodwill and good branding elsewhere. So I've been working on that a whole lot. It's been a huge project of mine. And then I continue to get requests on taking something and trying to find a way to branch out the product and perhaps add some more products to the line. But I don't know how to do that and stay true to my vision of making the very best, because there's only, when you're making the very best, there's only so many avenues that you can go down.
So let's talk about branding. You mentioned branding. How do you build a successful brand? Because you have to, for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I would say for almost every business, the dream scenario is you build a brand. Nike is not worth their billion-dollar valuation because they make shoes from China. Don't get me wrong, they're great shoes. Same with Adidas, right? But they do it because of the brand. The swoosh is
Absolutely.
where the value is. Coca-Cola is it's their recipe, but it's the Coca-Cola brand. So you're building a brand.
I am.
What is the hardest part about building a brand? What are some things, like advice, like, oh, we blew it when we were doing this, building our brand. This is what you need to avoid. This is what you should do. A lot of people out there have companies, they don't have brands.
The hardest part is figuring out your core values and sticking to it. And it's not easy to stick to it, because there's always an easy buck to be made. I mean, I get pitched at least once a month, if not more often, on taking Hestia tobacco and distilling it into some kind of e-juice for an e-cigarette or this or that. And I mean, there's nothing really pure about that. There's not an organic experience. And so, and there's a lot of quick money to be made there.
So that devalues the brand.
Right, and so you figure out what you stand for, and obviously we just stand for pure, authentic tobacco, as pure, as best as we can make it.
Yeah.
And that means you can't cut any corners, so you can't take the easy money. And there are those core values, and you stick to them, and you hammer them home, and you make sure that your customers know them and resonate with them, and they'll find you. I think there are folks in this country and around the world who just want, look, they choose to They choose to use tobacco, and then they choose to enjoy it, and we give them the best possible product.
How do you decide, and this is a finance question, how do you decide the price?
Really, we have much higher input costs because we're much lower volume, and we pay more for our tobacco. And
So that's what I'm saying. There's got to be a higher price.
Right, but I can't say I really looked to where the market was per se. I mean, there's taxes built in that you can't get around.
Yeah.
But really, we just find what our input costs are and find a profit margin for us, and let the customers take it from there. So I know that sometimes there's sort of that reverse psychology effect of raising the price of something so more people will think it's rare or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be authentic and make the purest product I can. And because we're incorporated in Nevada, we pay taxes in Nevada. And so in certain states we're more expensive than our competition, and in other states we're less expensive because we're normalized across the country.
Okay. Are you in all 50 states?
Yes, we can ship to all 50 states.
Okay.
So distribution is something we're working on, but we can do drop shipping because we are a cigar. And so we don't adjust the prices by where it's going based on whatever, because we only pay taxes in Nevada corporately. And so that's how we got our pricing. We just we took our input costs, which were much higher, and factored in the taxes and our profit margin and went from there.
That's fantastic. I was just reading one of the quotes on the back here, which
Yeah, we rotate our quotes. It's fun.
you read it up. So are they on all of them or just on those ones?
Only on these. We're actually kind of cycling away from this because we're having smaller packs, but it's been a fun thing. It's from Steps by Frank O'Hara. Oh God, it's wonderful to get out of bed and drink too much coffee and smoke too many cigarettes and love you so much, which is a paean he wrote to the city of New York.
Interesting. Why'd you choose to put quotes on the back? Just something to be different?
I'm an avid reader, and I love literature, and so I found quotes that I liked. I mean, the whole project has basically been my passion project, and so things I like end up in some capacity in the brand.
Well, last question as we wrap up. If you had to start over completely, what industry would you get into? What product would you want to sell?
Oh, you mean to start over?
Started over completely. You couldn't get back in this industry.
Oh, I can't do tobacco.
You can't do tobacco. If you had to start over from scratch, what would you want to get into? Virtual reality, tech, software?
No, I'd probably just make a bourbon.
Make a bourbon?
Yeah.
Okay, love it. So if somebody says, I want to learn more about you, I want to go to your website, maybe I want to order a pack of these, where can they do that?
HestiaTobacco.com.
HestiaTobacco.com. David, thanks for
Mark,
coming on the
it's
show.
been a pleasure.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Mark Lack, and we connect a community of entrepreneurs. You can join us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at businessrockstars.com.